All right, guys. Market is down again, all the way down to the 24,000 level in the NASDAQ. We got Meta down, Nvidia down to 176, Bitcoin about to hit 80,000. Still looking scary out there, guys. Now, I've told you guys this is the reason I'm not trying to buy anything right now. I just think it looks a little too scary. Maybe long term, I bought a couple things, but nothing major here. It's too scary right now. Buy anything right now. I just think it looks a little too scary. Yeah, Bitcoin down at 182s roughly right now. NASDAQ all the way down to it hit under 24,000. Remember, this was at 25,000. Hit 23s. Nvidia was at 195 roughly, $200 after earnings. It is now all the way back down 177s. Meta's down. Gold is elevated slightly. Gold's kind of flat despite all this stuff. Maybe gold's the buy right now. Yeah. Michael Saylor, Bitcoin is done. Yeah, Bitcoin's looking scary right now. I'll put it that way. I'll be careful. Bitcoin's down to $81,880. Oof. Yeah, I see some people talking about like XRP. What's XRP at right now? XRP is at $1.85. It's getting scary too. Dogecoin all the way down to 14 cents. It's getting scary too. Bitcoin made me scared from jump. Never got any news incoming today. We have some. Let me see. So we're gonna take a look at yields in a second. We have yesterday we had the employment report, which showed uptick in unemployment, and I think that's what scared a lot of people. You can see the rate cut odds have gone up from yesterday's report, especially with like the market week. I think it makes stimulation makes more sense right now. We're at 41.1% for treasury yields, 10-year treasury yields. They were at under 30 yesterday ahead of the payroll report. We also have actual 10-year treasury yields. Sorry, did I call those 10-year treasuries? That's the CME watch tool, has it at over 40% likelihood that we cut rates now. Yields have fallen down because interest rates and yields have a positive correlation generally. The yields are all the way down to under 4.7075. They're at 4.05%, heading towards 4% again. So yields are down, markets are down, gold is flat, markets are scary right now. Huh? Markets are scary. All right, guys. So we will see what happens here, but it's a scary market today. Look at the NASDAQ drop back down. I was looking at this 24,000 level, but still scary. Too many good deals. Let's do a poll right now. I don't have a poll going. Does this market correction continue into the opening hours today? I think that's the best question to ask here. Does this market correction continue today, basically? Yes or no? Vote on that poll here. And look at the NASDAQ still dropping this morning. Still down to 23,959. Right here, 23,959. We got some news this morning. Walmart price target was raised. They had earnings yesterday that were okay. They weren't terrible, but they negatively reacted to it. Cryptocurrencies continue to feel the heat, of course. Again, markets are scary right now. Again, the Bank of Japan did approve the $135.5 billion stimulus package. Treasury Secretary Bessent was spotted at a Bitcoin bar in DC. How much Bitcoin do you think he holds? Again, Bitcoin hit 81,507 lows. Still dropping, now under 81,000 for Bitcoin. Oof. Again, major indexes like the S&P down 1.5%, NASDAQ down 2%, Dow Jones down. That can't be right. No, that's not right. Dow's mostly flat on the day, actually, today. Dow is at 45,862. Did the Dow drop that much yesterday? SIBO, the VIX spiked. Look at the VIX right now. Here's 950 on the chart. Look at the VIX. VIX is up to almost 30 at 28 as we speak here. Elevated. AI bubble fears. I'm sure Michael Burry's dancing right now somewhere. Unsustainable valuation fears, AI bubble fears have led to a big sell-off. Nvidia, we thought Nvidia earnings would kind of save the day, but slight distraction. Yeah, it's down. The Dow's down about 1%. 1%, a little bit less than that. A drop of about 386 points. That's what I'm seeing. On a percentage basis, let's take a look at yesterday for the Q. Yesterday, the NASDAQ here. All right, let's look at a percentage. NASDAQ dropped from 615s basically down to, from yesterday's open to this morning, the NASDAQ is down 6% from yesterday's open to this morning. 615s right here, all the way down to 580 right here is a 5.7% drop. 5.7% drop in the Q, which is the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ NQ, QQQ, whatever way you want to look at it. It's the NASDAQ. S&P here, you can do the same thing from 675s down to 650. It's down almost 4%. The S&P 500 down almost 4% from yesterday's open. Nvidia all the way down to 176. It is down. It was at basically $200. We'll call it 198. It dropped all the way to 175. Peak from earnings. So Nvidia is down almost 12%. from its peak from earnings. This puts the total correction amount. If we take a look at like the SPY, let's take a look at the S&P. I want to see what the total correction is so far, because it's a little bit deeper now. So we're down from about 690 on the S&P or the SPY all the way down to 650. So from the peak, the S&P is down almost 6%. From the peak, the NASDAQ is down the NASDAQ is down 8% from its peak or so. Bitcoin, I don't even want to look at Bitcoin. Yeah, percentage drop. Will they cut rates in December now? Guys, let me know. Looking at our poll numbers, does the sell-off continue into the opening hours today? 76% say yes. Sell the rib short the bounce. Yeah, Bitcoin's the scariest one. And I think it's affecting all markets too. People see Bitcoin go down, they're freaking out. You know, I think a lot of Bitcoin money flows into everything else as well. And now Bitcoin has a lot of big money involved. So like big banks and, you know, it's affecting all of them that have invested in it at least. And Bitcoin under 81,000 right now, almost to 80,000 here. Sorry, I haven't been paying attention to the chat much. Hey, thank you for the donation, brother. BT says the market sell-off today was due to investors trying to get ahead of the Japanese carry trade. Expect to happen early December. The scary part of this doesn't account for Burry's overvaluation thesis. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think Bitcoin being down in correlation with everything. I think some of it's probably the carry trade dynamic. And again, if you don't understand what the carry trade dynamic is, investors use the Japanese yen because it historically has had a really low interest rate to use it, right? So they can essentially get almost free money by taking the Japanese yen with, or almost free leverage is a better way to put it, by taking the Japanese yen. Look at the Dow spike and the NASDAQ spike here. Oh. Oh. Hold on. Oh. Oh. Look at this move, guys. Ed Williams says inflation progress is stalled but should be on track to 2% in 2027. I don't think she's doing it. Fed can still cut rates in the near term given current policy is modestly restrictive, according to the New York Fed's Williams. I don't think Williams' comments are boosting the market like this, though, are they? I don't think they're that influential, but again, she said that they can still cut rates in the near term given current policy is modestly restrictive. Let me look at yields and see how this is affecting yields. That'll tell us what's going on. Yeah, and I mean, yields on this news have gotten like a sudden dump as well, which shows a lower interest rate sentiment. Look at yields fall here too. So maybe her comments on yields making the market optimistic, more optimistic about a rate cut in December, given her quote saying that the Fed can still cut rates near term given current policy is modestly restrictive. Or it's John C. Williams. Sorry, it's not a female. It's John C. Williams. My apologies. But no, I appreciate the $20, BT. Going back to what I said, the yen carry dynamic is that people use the Japanese yen to buy up U.S. assets because it has a low interest rate environment. So they essentially get like no interest, virtually no interest. Historically, they've gotten virtually no interest leverage using the Japanese yen. But now that the stimulus package is going to make bonds dump down, yields are going to spike, higher interest rates are going to be there. People are not going to get as optimal leverage with the Japanese yen, and so they might sell off U.S. assets, and that's the carry trade dynamic. U.S. bonds, really. Man. Yeah, well, these levels are really short term. You know, and any I've said it once, I'll say it again. Fundamental catalysts don't really, I mean, they can follow levels, but you know, they trump technicals, right? Like fundamentals are going to trump technicals. What do I mean by that? I mean, like a big news report coming out that influences the market heavily is going to render a lot of technical levels obsolete, because the moves are just too big to stop at every technical level. Just the bottom live, what, this 950 level basically? I don't know, the bottom could have been at 23,900s here. You know what's interesting is that this level was already here. I didn't draw this level today. I drew it some previous time. None of these levels were here today. If anything, the only thing I did was delete some of my levels because it was looking a little too crowded here. But I kind of want to buy this, to be honest, but I think it's a scary time to buy right now. But I do kind of want to buy this a little bit here. But again, it's a scary time to buy right now. Could have bought it maybe, but wait. All right, guys. Oof. VIX is rising, bro, and you buying? I'm not buying. I didn't buy. I said it's too scary to buy, really, is what I said. Oh. Renner trying to get access. Out of here. I added more to my indexes last night. The VIX is high, you gotta buy. Should have bought. In hindsight, I mean, I'm talking about day trading right now. Clarify, but I should have bought that level. We got the 200 exponential. We got a level on my chart, and then pulling right back to it. I should have bought it. I mean, I'm not gonna hold it a long time. I gotta get rid of some of these. So look at all these levels here. I don't know what's going on with the charts here. I guess I'll leave these levels up. All right, Bitcoin bouncing back, almost back up to 82,000 here after Fed Williams says that rate cuts in the near term are still possible, given policy is modestly restrictive, essentially, is what he said. Again, they still see room for near-term rate cuts. Monpol is modestly restrictive, tariffs adding 0.5 to 0.75% to inflation. They said post-tariffs inflation is back on track to 2% in 2027. Tariffs are adding about 3/4 points to inflation. They said it's imperative that the Fed meets its inflation target, but without undue risk to maximum employment goal. They said growth has slowed in the labor market, gradually cooled labor market now comparable to pre-pandemic years when it was not overheated. Again, they said the Fed can still cut rates in near term given current policy is modestly restrictive. That's what's boosting markets today. I should have bought. Yeah, I mean, Sam, listen, dude, we got 900 people here in less than 20 minutes. I'm trying to talk to everybody. I'm not sure what you said. I have to go back and find it. Liddy, I don't know why it doesn't like your comments, bro. I'm trying to scroll back and find it, but... Still going back here. Yeah, Nightbot's out of control today, Lenny, with your comments. I don't know why. All right. You can just flip that chart upside down. I see that comment. For now, Burry was very right. Jensen gets attacked that AI is in a bubble. It can't sustain itself. Suddenly, nobody believed him. Yeah, I mean, we're seeing some corrections. I get it. A lot of this has to do with like a sketchy. Yeah, I know. Lenny's always targeted. I don't know why Nightbot's got a problem with him. He said the Benner cycle, which is the legitimate thing, right? Again, so dovish move is seen in markets after the New York Fed. Williams says Fed can still cut rates near term. That's what's going on. That's what's boosting everything back. Again, Bitcoin up to 82,500. NASDAQ rebounding here. Here's the SPY right here. Even like Nvidia is rebounding. So again, market wants rate cuts. I think. And yeah, I think this kind of shows how much the market does want rate cuts in December. I think the market wants rate cuts in December. Again, at this point, it's still under 50% likelihood that we're going to cut rates in December. I think it's like 42% the last time I looked at it. This might change a little bit though. Let's take a look. Right now, the Fed Watch tool is showing, yeah, it's still 41.5%, right? So essentially 41% likelihood of a rate cut in December. So it's still not the most probable thing, but I gotta switch it from top chat to live chat too. I'm missing stuff. Yeah, at this point it's still 60-40 basically. Bitcoin all the way back up to almost 83,000 right now. In what market, Sam? In what market was that? Regardless, we're getting cuts next year, then next year. Yeah, I mean, as of May, Powell's going to be stepping down anyway. So, and they're going to put in a dovish chairman, of course, because that's what every president wants, a low interest rate environment. Why? Because it stimulates the economy so they can say, look what I've done. Look how great the economy is. Again, the risk is inflation. And I'm not even mad if they want to lower interest rates at this point in time. I think the market's scary enough. The labor market's probably scary enough. Although I do fear inflation almost to the same degree as weakening in the labor market. I think eventually, like, weak labor market becomes the priority. It has to, because if not, then we go into a recession. And then when we're in a recession, we have to kind of super ease and print money super aggressively. And then it makes inflation worse anyway. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Okay, so now a December rate cut has gone up to over 50% apparently. See? Maybe mine's just late to reload. Let me check. I don't know if it went back down. Yeah, I'm still showing 41%. But Walter Bloomberg says traders boost odds of a December rate cut to more than 50%. Also, in the last 24 hours, we've seen almost 2 billion crypto liquidations. CoinGlass reports 1.9 billion in liquidations in the last 24 hours, hitting 403,000 traders. Analysts cite renewed risk-off sentiment and tech stocks selling as drivers. Crypto market has fallen into extreme fear, reflecting sharp drop in risk appetite. So, shout out to John Williams boosting the rate odds. Oh, yeah, I don't know either, brother. Damn, I don't know. 610 billion. Don't understand Powell's argument of real wages coming up to fight inflation without cutting rates. Can't have wage rise of no jobs. They have no choice but to cut in the near future. Yeah, I mean, I think we should. You know, again, Powell's going to reference like payrolls yesterday. The real risk, though, is unemployment upticked. 4.4%, right? That's the real risk. Payrolls were 118,000. Again, I'm going to say this again. Non-farm payrolls have not been the most accurate numbers. I think we could look at like ADP's numbers to get a better look at it. ADP's private payroll data has been, again, I would say over the last 6 months, just more accurate. Than, you know, again, they'll put out non-farm payrolls and then they'll get revised down massively the next few months. And we've seen that pretty consistently in the payroll data over the last 6 months, especially. And the ADP data has been pretty accurate. The non-farm employment change data from ADP, you know, recently the prelim weekly employment report that we've been getting from ADP last time showed negative 2,500 jobs. The one before that showed negative 11.25 thousand jobs. And negative job growth is never good. So, yeah. Okay, so Sam, you are talking about a recent viral headline investigative report discussing a supposed $610 billion fraud within the AI and tech finance ecosystem. It centers on circular financing and accounting practices that involve NVIDIA, Microsoft, and OpenAI, algorithmic stuff, and more. It's been described as unprecedented because algorithmic systems flagged irregularities within hours of an earnings report, making people freak out. Much of this is just rumors on social media, though. There's not any mainstream regulatory or judicial announcements confirming an actual case. And so it's just accounting anomalies in regards to circular financing is what I'm reading. But yeah. In my opinion, what will cause rate cuts will be home foreclosures due to government layoffs and private sector trimming manpower in exchange for AI. Usually a 6-month delay. Yeah, but I think AI has already been to a point in which you could replace people with it for the last year or two. I mean, it depends on what context. If we're talking about programming, yes, you can replace junior programmers with AI at this point in time. I mean, I think this is just obviously true. And this, again, I'm a programmer. Like, I'm JavaScript, React Native, front end mostly. And front end is definitely getting replaced with, you know, back end might be a little bit more resilient, but front end's definitely getting replaced by AI. At least the junior programmers and some of the, you know, middle of the road programmers, they're definitely getting replaced by AI. This is just objectively true, right? Now we'll still have people running AI systems to create the code, and they'll probably still need to know code. But yeah, I mean, this is just clear, I think. Depends on the niche, though. Editors, they're probably in trouble too. You know, let's just be honest. Editors, they're probably in trouble. Ain't nobody got time for back end, Lenny. That's all I'm saying. Nah, I probably could. I was watching a movie in charts. Massively green candle brought me back to you, John. Only place I can quickly know what's going on. Hey, you're welcome. I'm here, you know. Really, so the AI can do all the things a person does, communicate with the team, be trusted with email and network access, zero chance. No, it can't. But it doesn't need to be honest, because at this point you can have 4 or 5 different AI systems programming things. You're still going to need a person to facilitate it. But that's my point, is like you're still going to need a person to facilitate things. But yeah, I mean, people are obviously going to get replaced by it, you know. It's not like I want this to be true. You know, listen. When I taught myself how to program, it took me so long. Like, I would have to research for hours in the errors that I would get. I'd have to go Stack Overflow and research, and sometimes I would never figure it out, and I'd have to just move on and you know, figure it out. At this point in time, I can ask AI to figure it out in 0.5 seconds. It literally answers you immediately. I can take a picture and say, hey, what's wrong here? And it'll say, this is what's wrong in this context. You should be doing this and this and this. And so ironically, it's a lot easier to learn how to program you're not going to need it as much, but you know. Yeah, so again, many participants, thank you for the donation. You're saying, why did the market drop yesterday? Again, there's a lot of reasons. One of them is essentially just AI fears, tech overvaluations, the yen carry dynamic. People started interpreting NVIDIA and other microchip earnings, and they said they see some anomalies with circular financing. Others are blaming it on the yen carry dynamic, which again is people using the low interest environment of the Japanese yen and buying US assets with it to get kind of cheap leverage. But with interest rates going up because bonds are getting unloaded because of the stimulus, it's not going to have that dynamic. People might start selling US assets and causing dumps there, and people are reacting to that. Again, many market participants blame the recent stock market drop on disruptions in the yen carry dynamic. Rising Japanese government bond yields, now the highest since 2008, have triggered a reversal in the currency-funded investment strategy known as the yen carry trade, where investors borrow low-yielding yen to finance riskier global asset purchases. As Japan's interest rates are rising, investors are repatriating funds, selling foreign assets to reinvest in domestic positions, draining liquidity from global markets. It's causing more volatility too. In short, the yen carry trade reversal is squeezing global liquidity while Bitcoin is down and other stuff too. So it's a bunch of different things happening at once. Bro, it's hard to keep up with the chat today. I called you guys the trap. It's hard to keep up with the chat today. Yeah, you can't stop innovation here, man. And again, it's one of those things where I've said it once, I'll say it again. When the carriage was replaced by the automobile, I'm sure a bunch of really good carriage builders were upset. You know, I'm sure a bunch of really nice, you know, horse breeders were upset. You know, thus is the nature of technology evolution. I'm not gonna just say deal with it, but if you don't, you better adapt, because that's how it goes. Is it at 66%? It is at 66. Look at the number here. Uh-oh. I don't like this number. Look at this number right here. 67%. I'm just going to round up. 67% to 33% odds. So at this point, the odds of a rate cut after Cook's comments have gone up dramatically here. This is making markets rebound all the way back up. Look at my levels in work here, man. Look at these levels right here. Bitcoin back up to almost 83,500. So Bitcoin rising back up. Oh, dude, I said the forbidden numbers. Listen, I have an 11-year-old. I hear those numbers too much. You know, like, be quiet, bro. At this point, kids are just saying stuff they don't even know what it means. All right, like I said, it's better than the skippity toilet riz. I'll give it that. You know, I'd rather them just say random numbers than something completely ridiculous like skippity toilet riz. But still, all right. NVIDIA almost green on the day. Look at NVIDIA. NVIDIA at 180.60s right now. We're at 179.90s. Almost green on the day at this point in time. Oh, what did I miss? This is ugly? Yeah, for sure. Dude, I use AI I use AI every day. Easily every day. I use a bunch of different systems too. I use ChatGPT, I use Gemini, I use Perplexity. I use a bunch of different ones. Video almost green. 180s. Previous closing price is 180.60. Let me see. 180.64. Just tapped the previous closing price. Again, rate cut odds are now over 60%. They're now at about 64% as we speak here. Yields are plummeting down. If we look at this, yields have plummeted down on the Fed Williams speech. What a spike. Which AI can make money? I mean, all of them can. Depends on what you're using it for. I don't have conversations with AI. I say please and thank you, though, so if it does ever end up taking over, it's going to be like, you know what? John was polite. We'll spare him. Okay? Now, Steve over there, he was mean, you know? Yeah. I know it wastes resources by saying please and thank you. But still, I'm doing it. All right, guys, NASDAQ still trying to push up. NVIDIA almost green on the day. The SPY is now technically green on the day as well. The NASDAQ is now technically green. Again, the Fed Williams came out basically saying we can still cut rates next month, given current policy is quote unquote modestly restricted, right? Rate cut odds increased substantially over the last 10 minutes. Markets rebounded, Bitcoin back up to 83.5. NASDAQ's pushing up. Both are green on the day now. NVIDIA just pushed over, now technically green up to 181s or so. So markets are back. Again, Williams says clear communication. They just spoke again. Clear communication can limit market disruption and have not been on a sustainable fiscal path for a while. All right, Williams. We have not been on a sustainable fiscal path for a while. Clear communication can limit market disruptions. Again, odds of a rate cut have now gone up over 50% again. This has been volatile movement in those odds too, man. We were all the way down to like 25% a few days ago. Now we're over 60% again. We'll see. So if you want to make money with AI, start a business, make AI part of it, not the center of it, is easier. Like John does with summaries. Yeah. I mean, it just makes my job easier. Like, I've been streaming since before AI, and it used to take me a lot longer to figure out what was going on in markets. Now I can just wake up in the morning and be like, yo, summarize stocks, crypto, futures, market moves. I usually tell it anything that moves markets and pre-market this morning. Anything that's moving markets and pre-markets, you know, educate me on what's going on. Some of them are better than others, though. ChatGPT will just say some wild things. ChatGPT is like, yeah, the NASDAQ's up 7% today. You know, the Dow's down 14%. You know, it'll feed me some news release that from 3 months ago and pretend it was today. And then, yeah, it just says wild things. ChatGPT's bad at querying things, right? Like, it's bad at pulling recent data, you know? Others are better, though. Like, Perplexity's better. Gemini's generally better. So I don't know. Grok is okay. Unless you use, if you use the Grok one that is supposed to just be fast, it's super inaccurate for me. Super inaccurate. Like, if I'm like, hey, you know, if I choose the option of like fast delivery, it gives me a bunch of nonsense. I wouldn't say we're dumping. I say we're pulling back here. I mean, the Fed Williams quotes have boosted the market up substantially here. Again, that news came out right here. Look at this pop we've seen just from the Fed Williams coming out saying it's basically possible for us to cut rates in December. I mean, I'm glad, you know, but still kind of wild. Yeah, no, I agree. 100%. ChatGPT is good at some things, right? I would say it's good at summarizing. Like if you feed it the text, if you're like, here's 1,000 words, summarize it in bullet points now. It does it pretty well. But if I'm like, hey, what is this news release? It's usually pretty bad at it. All right, so we are dipping down. I kind of want to buy this dip though. The question is, it's a scary time to buy. I might buy 175 here though. We get down to 175 right here, I'll buy it. But I need to wait. And it's just a day trade. I don't trust it enough to hold the NASDAQ. We're at 190s. Almost 8 a.m. Let me make sure we don't have any data today. I don't think we do, but let me make sure. It's been wild with the data. They released a lot of stuff yesterday. Yeah, we don't have any data today. Canadian retail sales released at 8:30. We got manufacturing and services PMI coming out as well. Housing starts. So we got some stuff actually today. Michigan 1-year inflation expectations and consumer sentiment. And as well as 5-year Michigan consumer sentiment is what it is. I was gonna buy this dip, but I think it's gonna bounce a little bit early for me. Here's 200s right here. This might be relevant. We have PMI. We have manufacturing PMI at 945. Yes, but it's not the ISM PMI. I think it's who does this one? I think it's market economics, so it's not the big one. Oh no, this is just global. Yeah, this is global manufacturing PMI. So it's not the big PMI. It's not ISM manufacturing PMI from the Institute of Supply Management. It's just S&P global PMI data. So we'll see. I don't think it'll have as much influence. Coinbase at these levels? Well, I think Coinbase is going to be dependent on crypto right now, and crypto's scary. Coinbase is down, obviously. What? Coinbase is down, like... Where's it at right now? Yeah, Coinbase is down almost 50% from its peak up here. Coinbase's peak was at, like, in, what was this? In July, at $445 a share. At, like, 220s right now, 230. So almost a 50% drop. That's like a 40-something% drop in a few months for Coinbase. So, I mean, I think long-term, look, I'm going to put this out there. I'm not an investment professional. I'm not liable if you lose money. Always make your own assessment, trade smart. I can't guarantee anything. I'm not going to give out any professional investment advice, and we're not liable if you lose, because half the time I have no idea what I'm talking about, guys. So don't copy me. But yeah, Coinbase probably long-term is decent here. You never know, though. You never know. Thanks for what you do, John. At the time, I was unfortunately in a short position. Thanks for being on point with the data. Yeah, all good, Kevin. No worries, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, again, Fed Williams still speaking here. He says clear communication can limit disruption, not have a sustainable fiscal path. Williams says fiscal policy may be boosting the neutral 25 to 50 basis points. Good. See if it holds. It says market seems to be very bullish on AI, anticipating a period of strong growth. He says globally we're still in a low neutral rate world. Again, he says fiscal policy may be boosting neutral 25 to 50 basis points. 25 fiscal changes will boost growth over the next year, he says. He said, I expect roughly trend growth this year and next year. We're getting supply shocks as well as demand ones. Don't like the notion of a short run neutral rate. No question that treasuries are the heart of the global finance system. I'm still looking at 175, and I might still buy 175 here if we get down there. I think that's probably close enough. Maybe add a piece to it, but it's a scary buy here, and it's small, so I keep it small. There we go. We bounced up a little bit. There we go. I'm gonna take half off immediately right here, just because we bounced so strong right there. We'll give it a chance. Go. Cut it right there. Scalp that move. I gotta be a whip today, guys. The market is not necessarily easy today. Google must double AI compute. Fed rate at 70%? Is it really? 70%? Take a look. It's better than the other number that was up. 70.6%. Now we're 70-30 rate cut in December. And honestly, I think we should. I think the labor market's scary. The last thing we need is an AI bubble correction and the economy tanking. You know, I know some people are going to say, hey, well, you know, that contradicts itself because AI is going to replace jobs. And so the bigger AI gets, the less jobs that are going to be out there. And I understand, but looks like I got out just in time here. I think scalping probably was the right move of this because look at the NASDAQ fall all the way back down here. A level I'm watching, there's two levels, short term. I'm watching 24,000 right here on the NASDAQ, big psychological whole dollar number. And then I'm watching the 200 exponential is right here around 24,100, which is also a whole dollar number, 100 level. So we'll see if we get a pullback and a continuation here. Nvidia's dumping back down too, though. Look at Nvidia drop. Coinbase falling back down, Bitcoin dipping. How's Apple doing? People criticized Apple for being less AI focused, but I think considering the big corrections we've seen, AI is still pretty close. I don't know, or Apple is still pretty close to its all-time high, despite the recent shocks to the AI system. So again, people criticize Apple, and this kind of shows you like these are AI fears, right? How do we know this? Is because the companies that historically were criticized for not being as enwrapped in AI as they should are resilient to these drops. Yeah, and again, what originally pushed back the odds of a rate cut in December is the fact that the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, completely canceled the October jobs report. We are not getting an October jobs report anymore. We are getting a November one. It's going to be after the next Fed meeting, though. So the next labor report is going to be after the next Fed meeting. Again, it's going to be after the next Fed meeting on December 16th. The next Fed meeting is on December 10th. Right? It's every 6 weeks. And so we are not going to get another labor report before the Fed makes their rate decision in December. We will get some late reports, though, I think. I think next week we're getting PCE inflation. We are getting GDP data. We're getting jobless claims data. We're getting ADP weekly payroll data. So we're getting some job numbers, but it's not the official labor report that we got yesterday for September. Because the government was shut down. They can't really pull the data for it since the government was shut down in October is what it was. All right, guys. Bitcoin's starting to climb back up. We did get a bounce at 150. I was looking for 100, but maybe I was just $50 off here. A new way to start my day. Thank you, Koi. Appreciate it, brother. Thank you, sir. My wife was thinking about making a koi pond in the backyard. Talk me out of it, guys. Help me talk her out of it. Actually, I wouldn't mind a koi pond. They're kind of cool. I'd rather another dog, but I don't think I could swing that with her, you know. Yeah, more water, 100%, you know. This instrumental is called Silver Wraith by Dylan Sitz. Silver Wraith. Yeah, what's, you know, you would think the people that compile this data would be considered essential. All right, Nasdaq starting to pop back up again. Bitcoin is still up to almost 83,500 here. Nvidia technically red on the day, but again, SPY is green, Q is green, Dow is green. So Dow is green anyway, to be honest. Dow's less tech heavy, so the corrections in tech make it a little bit more resilient. Hawks like sushi. Yeah, I believe that. My dad's a falconer, so he raised falcons. And we had pet rabbits simultaneously at my house. You know, none of them ever got, but there's a couple close calls. I don't know. There's favoritism in my household with my dogs. I love Rosie, which is the one that you can see in the screen. Greatest dog ever. Super sweet. I mean, Carol's like a celebrity with Rosie, though. Like, I could be petting Rosie. If Carol shows up, Rosie freaks out and is like, oh my gosh, and she just runs over to Carol, and I'm like, chopped liver. She doesn't care about me at that point. Carol's like a freaking huge celebrity in our house with Rosie. I still like Rosie, though. Bruce, he's so food motivated. I think he almost is like a working dog. He's so food motivated. Like, he'll let you pet him, but like, he wants food. I think it's the fact that I've been spending all my mornings with you guys, and so when Rosie was really little, Carol hung out with her every morning. Carol's like her mom. Rosie just uses me for playing. They're German Shepherds. Here's Rosie. This is my favorite one. And then Bruce. I got a picture of Bruce somewhere. All right, guys. Again, we'll see if the Nasdaq holds. Bitcoin is still pushing up. Bitcoin is now over 83,500. This is Bruce when he was 7 months old. Bruce is big. He's big. Yeah, Nvidia now technically green on the day. It's at 181s. 181s. Again, Fed Williams says it's important to have accurate and reliable data sources. Coinbase is going to buy Vector. They didn't discuss the terms. They said transaction is expected to close by year end. But again, Fed Williams says it's important to have accurate and reliable data sources. Again, rate cuts are now on the table for December after Fed Williams basically said we could still cut rates in December. Modestly restrictive only right now. Says the question of expanding swap lines is both political and a matter of what goal would be achieved. Swap lines are both the U.S. and the counterparties, are for both the U.S. and counterparties. Yields on the U.S. Treasuries 10-year are down 4 basis points. They're now at 4.065%, 4.065. Again, luxury home prices, according to Redfin, jumped 5.5% in October. Luxury homes went up 5.5% in October to a 1.28 million median price, growing about 3 times faster than non-luxury homes, which rose about 1.8% to about 373,000, according to Redfin. So again, it's a scary day. It's a scary day, but again, after Williams' comments, look at Nvidia, guys. Nvidia all the way up to 181. 181 for Nvidia. So Nvidia now technically green on the day. S&P's now technically green. When I woke up this morning, I said, oh no, it's scary again. After Williams' cut comments, Markets are a little bit happier. Markets are a little bit happier. Does this hold into the day? Again, we did a poll this morning. 68% say yes, it does. 32% say no, it doesn't. Yeah, anybody mad at me for showing you my dogs? Cry about it, okay? I'm gonna do it anyway, you know? If you had dogs as beautiful as I did, you would too. You know, that's all I'm saying. Yeah, honestly, I'm surprised the odds of rate cuts increased that much by just William saying that we could. William's like, hey, we could cut rates next month, and the odds skyrocket. They went from like 30% to like 70%. I think they're back down a little bit from the peak of 70%. Let me check, though. They might not be. Y'all want to see a cool dog video? I got some here. I don't want it to distract me too much, though. When Bruce was a little baby. They like swimming, too. Look at these dogs.
Ready? Drop it. Drop it. There you go. Ready? Ready, Bruce? Go get it.
Yeah, Bruce is on it. He's got to have some working line in him, for sure. Rosie steals the ball from him, though. "15 minutes until the next two Fed members speak." Yeah, we do have a lot of Fed members speaking today, just to clarify. So we have Jefferson speaking in 45 minutes. No, I'm sorry, not Jefferson. We have Susan Collins, where she should be speaking now. We got Michael Burr welcoming remarks. We got Chair Philip Jefferson speaking at 8:45 market time. We got Lori Logan speaking at 9 a.m. We got Susan Collins speaking at 9 a.m. And then we have manufacturing PMI at 9:45 and consumer sentiment at 10 a.m. So we got a lot of stuff going on today that might swing markets either way. We got other Fed members too. It just depends on whether they're hawkish or dovish. And again, I'm not sure which one they're going to be here. Yeah, I don't know. Hawkish or dovish. Let me know if you guys think they're going to be hawkish or dovish. All right, NASDAQ pumping towards the, is this the high of the day? It is the high of the day. NASDAQ pushing towards the high of the day at 250, 257s here. The Dow is pretty resilient, though. SPY is pushing towards, I believe, the high of the day as well here. Yeah, high of the day is about 656. 656, like 50 maybe. Yeah. The high of the day in the SPY. NASDAQ's getting close. NVIDIA is what's rising up. Look at NVIDIA. It's almost back up to 182s. Again, NVIDIA has been in this range essentially since the beginning of October. We've been between highs and 180. So I think it holding 180 is an optimistic thing for NVIDIA. It dipped below it for a little while this morning, so I think it re-catching that is good. Again, Bitcoin up to 83,000 again. That's good as well. Have a bad feeling again. Just gonna dump it again after the open. Hey, good luck. I hate dogs. How do you hate dogs, bro? Feds Williams says history tells us not to over-index for the last 5 years. History tells us not to over-index. Again, China's vice premier says they seek stable trade ties with the United States. Again, December odds for rate cuts are now up substantially here. Substantially. Bitcoin up to 84,200s right now. NASDAQ just broke highs of the day. NVIDIA up to 182s. Again, Fed Watch Tool showing over almost 71% odds. So we're at 71.29 odds. What I do on the poll? Does the market push continue? 67% say yes, 33% say no. Yeah, the carry trade fears are still real. I mean, that's definitely something going on. Again, the carry trade is kind of causing some global liquidity squeezes. Japanese rates have been climbing up. More money flows home. Broad weakness in equities and causing sharp moves in currencies and treasuries. So yeah, the carry dynamic is just kind of exacerbating the problems and tech overvaluation fears that we've seen, really. Yeah, we got PMI today. Yeah, I'll do a different poll here. And I think I'm just going to ask, does the Fed cut rates December 10th? Yeah, does the Fed cut rates December 10th, guys? Let me know. Again, 71% odds for rate cuts now. Kind of crazy. NASDAQ testing highs of the day again. So is the SPY. NVIDIA as well. 70% now say yes. So it honestly is mirroring what we see on the Fed Watch tool. Again, Fed's Collins, when asked about December, says she is focused on both parts of the mandate via Bloomberg. Again, labor supply and demand growth is slow to rough unusual balance. So not seeing significant unemployment change, is watching carefully. It's important to be forward-looking. Absolutely, there are risks on the labor market, but that is not her only consideration. It's about balancing the risks and assessing which goal is further away from the target. Increased risks of labor markets were a good reason for the cut so far. Now the Fed has moved much closer to the neutral rate and is balancing labor market risks with inflation risks. Policy only mildly restrictive in her view. She thinks it's close to the neutral rate at this point in time. But yeah, she's less dovish than Williams. So again, the Fed's Collins basically said she's looking at both sides of the dual mandate, and she can't be too weighted to the labor market weakness. Fears is essentially what she said. NASDAQ just broke highs of the day here. Yeah, the Fed Williams asked about December, said she's focused on both parts of the mandate. I was 71% chance, poor chance. I don't think it's a poor chance, but I think it's been swinging back and forth as well. Like yesterday it was 25%, today it's 71%. And so, maybe it wasn't 25, it was like 29% yesterday. Today it's 71. So again, the Fed Watch tool is not the most accurate ahead of 20 days before the Fed meeting. The Fed Watch tool is the most accurate less than 3 days before the Fed meeting. As we get closer to the Fed meeting, it becomes more and more accurate, right? To where before the Fed meeting, it becomes a little bit more probable. Sometimes it's still split though. But that's my point. It's we don't really know. This doesn't necessarily mean a rate cut is guaranteed in December, because this is always subject to change. And we do have a lot of data coming out over the next few days that could swing this either way. So just be careful. NASDAQ still breaking not all-time highs, breaking highs of the day. Up to almost 24,300s. SPY just broke highs as well last few minutes. Still making moves up. Fed Williams says financial markets set asset prices. The Fed does not have a view on whether they are too high or too low regarding tech valuations. We don't have insight on whether the market is overvalued, she says. Right, is this Williams? Let me see. He says. Feds Williams says history tells us not to over-index for the last 5 years. All right, so here's a dip right now. So we are pulling back here. Let's see if 250 can hold it. Again, Collins did come out a little bit more hawkish. So a cut is imminent, either December or January. Yeah, I mean, I think we'll cut one of those. The Fed's Collins says she is still very focused. Collins is the, yeah, so she is still very focused on the weekly claims data. According to CNBC, September jobs data was mixed. Yeah, so I think even though we're not getting a labor report, the weekly claims data is going to be relevant. All right, guys, we're heading towards 8:30 here today. And while we don't have any major data coming out at 8:30, let me make sure. I think I've checked already once. We got some Fed, like a bunch of Fed people speaking today. Collins is speaking right now. Lori Logan is going to be speaking soon. We got Canadian retail sales as well. So what that looks like. Fed Vice Chair for Supervision Barr, Michael Barr, speaking in 6 minutes. Williams is speaking right now. And again, the weekly claims she's talking about is jobless claims unemployment filings that we get every Thursday. Yesterday's came in low at 220,000 versus 227,000 expected, so they were low yesterday, which means that it was stronger than expected. Less people filing for unemployment is what that means. And so, all right, so NASDAQ is still pulling back down. Let's watch 225 right here. Being from Baton Rouge, let's see if 225 holds. Again, Collins says inflation remains elevated. Unemployment rate is still relatively low. I think that might be what's causing this red drop here. Again, Collins says job market is clearly softened right now with limited data. Economic activity continues to be resilient. Fed's policy is modestly restrictive. Inflation remains elevated. Unemployment rate is still relatively low. Fed's Collins. And again, this might be what's causing this drop. Fed Watch tool just takes its data from this channel. Yeah, we're pretty on par with what again, we got 70-30 right now. As the Fed cut rates. Watch tool's got 70-30 basically right now too. So. Yeah, we got two opposing people. One's hawkish, one's dovish. Collins says mildly or moderately restrictive policy is appropriate. Says healthy for markets to determine valuations. I expect growth to slow a bit later this year. See, and this kind of contradicts what Williams was saying earlier. Williams is saying he thinks we're going to grow. I expect growth to slow a bit later this year. Well, lady, it's late December. It's late November. How much later this year are we talking here? I agree inflation is a little high too, though. So I think I agree with her in the context of like inflation is still a risk for sure. But again, we got quantitative tightening ending on December 1st. I don't think they're going to ease, though. I don't think we're necessarily going to print more. Again, quantitative easing is where we create online bank reserves and then use those online money to buy up bonds and inject liquidity and expand the balance sheet. It can cause inflation more than anything else, you know. But if you want crypto to go up, you know, I think Bitcoin's pulling back partly because it's looking less dovish short term. I mean, there's a lot of other reasons, but I think that's one of them. But I agree, inflation's elevated, right? And QE can cause inflation, so it's nuanced. And again, we're ending quantitative tightening, which is like the Fed's balance sheet. They've been reducing the size of it over the last, really since 2023. So they're stopping that reduction of their balance sheet December 1st, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to start printing. You know, it can mean that, and it usually does, I think. But they could also keep their balance sheet the same size. And the way they would do that is they would let their current holdings mature and run off, and then they would just replace them, you know, with others, right? Effectively keeping the balance sheet the same. And that's possible too. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with the Fed over the next few months. Yeah, I mean, I think after a certain point, unemployment in the labor market becomes the bigger risk. And I explained this earlier. And part of that is because if we head towards a recession and we have to kind of like super ease and print a bunch of money and do all these different things, that's going to make inflation worse anyway, you know? And so it's better to, after a certain amount of weakness in the labor market, try to avoid the recession versus continuing to hyper focus on inflation, if that makes sense. But again, it's nuanced and it's very subjective. So well, I think nuanced is the easiest way to explain. Like, it's complicated. I can say complicated if you want. If you like complicated better than nuanced, that's okay. Cry about it. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, crypto. Again, crypto's back up a little bit today. I don't think it's necessarily green on the day, though. Let me see. Next Fed speakers in 2 minutes. Yeah. All right, so 8:30 is here. Again, we got Canadian retail sales. I'll cover them, but I don't think they're going to move markets, but we'll see. Nasdaq's still coming down on essentially Collins being more hawkish versus Williams earlier. Yeah, we got retail sales for Canada coming out right now. Again, I think Lori Logan's supposed to... no, Fed Governor Jefferson's supposed to speak. Michael Barr is supposed to speak in 1 minute as well. All right, so here's the 8:30 data release here. So core retail sales for Canada came in at 0.2% positive versus a negative 0.5% expected. So retail sales for Canada a little bit stronger than expected here. I'm not sure what the regular retail sales did though, but core retail sales 0.2% versus a negative 0.5% expected for retail sales for Canada. Retail sales showed up as expected though at negative 0.7%. Real earnings for the US did show up at negative 0.1%. At negative 0.1% real earnings month over month for the United States. Last time was the same thing at negative 0.1%. This is for September though, so this is pre-shutdown. Actually, they revised the previous one down. The last one for real earnings was down 0.3%. This was down 0.1%. So Michael Barr did not comment on monetary policy. He just had welcoming remarks at one of the Fed events. But we did have, again, U.S. real weekly earnings for September. There's that data right here. Why are they adamant about not cutting rates in December? They have to do it in January anyway. Yeah, I mean, I think last year we did a similar thing. I'm going to still stick to my thesis of 25, 25, 25 in terms of the rate cut cycle this year. They did the same thing last year. Last year they started cutting rates in December. Or no, I'm sorry, in September, and then they cut it again in November, and then they cut it again in December last year. This year they cut it in September, they cut out in October, and I think they're going to cut next month as well. But yeah, that makes it 0.75% cuts to the federal funds rate this year, and I think that's fine. You know, I don't want us to print money though. So yeah, again, Collins kind of pushed the market back down, but we're still green on the day now. We were pretty red into the opening bell. Collins says I'm hesitant to get too far ahead with rate cuts while inflation is still high. Again, Collins says they're hesitant. She's hesitant to get too far ahead with rate cuts while inflation is still high. Williams said employers are very cautious about hiring new employees. It's interesting because we have two different Fed members speaking at the same time. Williams, dovish, says we can't cut rates next month. You know, labor market's weak. Collins, on the other end, says inflation is still too elevated. Rate cuts are not guaranteed. So they're kind of contradicting viewpoints here for both Fed members that are simultaneously speaking. Williams also said AI impact on labor is similar to the prior hollowing out of blue-collar jobs will change what skills are marketable. Coughing. Collins says over time expect to lower rates further. She said over time I expect we will lower rates further. But also that she's hesitant to get too far ahead with rate cuts while inflation is still elevated. Moran, the Fed's Moran, which is I think the newest member, says he hopes if everyone was in doubt, the labor market data should convince people to cut in December. Fed's Moran. This is the newly appointed one. Collins, the hawkish one, did say they think we're going to cut a little bit further, though, which is good. Maybe January. Companies aren't hiring, bro, for the September job numbers. They definitely... I don't know. September was before the labor market. The government shut down, so... Unemployment did uptick, though. Is it Miron? I don't freaking know, man. Job numbers weak, but inflation elevated. No good options. Yeah, a lot of people are going to say we're in a stagflation situation where we have high inflation and weak labor. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with that either. Sometimes that can precede a recession too. So... I don't see the market getting excited about a bare minimum basis rate cut in December. Too little, too late. I mean, I would agree with you, but I don't. Smooth. Sorry, brother. It's okay. We're not going to agree on everything. But you know why I think the market's going to get excited is because just the fact that Williams said that we could maybe cut rates in December. He said that right here. Market immediately reacted like this to that comment. And so I think the market wants rate cuts in December based off of the price action this month. Once Williams said that again right here, the odds of a rate cut in December went up to over 70%. I'm sure after Collins is speaking, though, they might have gone down a little bit. Let me look. Now they're still at 79% on my end. Yeah, 70 or 71% on my end for odds of rate cuts. So. Ivy, I think you might be a little delayed on the stream. Salutations. The market knocked a couple of my... Even Collins said rate cut in future. Yeah, Collins did say rate cuts in future. I mean, we can look at January here. Here's January. At this point, we got at least a 55% chance that... This kind of shows if we cut in December, there's a 55% chance that we might pause in June. You know, so this shows if we cut in December, we might actually pause, but I'm not 100% either way. Nasdaq still pushing up towards highs again. SPY pushing up, Nvidia testing highs of the day at 182s right now. Moran says lack of data doesn't mean we don't have a forecast. Williams on AI impact on labor says is similar to the prior hollowing out of blue-collar jobs will change what skills are marketable. Over time, I expect we will see lower rates further, according to Collins, and says I'm hesitant to get too far ahead with rate cuts while inflation is still high. Fed's Williams says employers are very cautious about hiring new employees. I'm pretty green on the day, though. That's good. My stock portfolio. Be 1% chance in January of at least a 25 basis point by January. Yeah, I'm worried about the opening bell today, to be honest, because we got just stuff going on. It's definitely a little scarier, right? And it's still popping up. Bitcoin still pretty red on the day. It closed. Bitcoin closed at 87,300. At 83,000, 84,000 right now. So it's still down on the day pretty significantly from Bitcoin. Gonna be rockets until PMI. I don't think PMI is really gonna influence. I mean, maybe it does. It's not the ISM PMI, which is the bigger one though. But maybe it influences at least a little bit. But I don't know if PMI is gonna like say. I don't know if it's a market saving catalyst for today. I'll put it that way. I just don't know if it's gonna save the market. I don't think it's big enough to necessarily do it. It's Friday though, so it's Friday. Yesterday's report showed we got jobs, and we have stuff to do today. You know, Baran says I would vote for a 25 basis point cut if my vote were a marginal vote. Baran says we should be forecast dependent, not data dependent. The market's supposed to be open now. Market opens up at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time in 50 minutes. And I'm watching for what the Fed members are saying here. I mean, it looks bullish, obviously. I think it looks very bullish, obviously, but it doesn't mean much yet. Day is intense. It's clear the market has a choice to make. Yeah, I mean, I have talked a lot about the Japanese carry dynamic. Again, Japanese yields surging after stimulus causing bond prices to fall there. This is causing people who generally use the yen to buy up assets with to have to sell off some of those assets since they now have a worse interest rate because of the yield spiking. This carry trade dynamic is certainly causing problems today, and really for the last little bit people have been getting priced into that as well. And yeah, it's definitely one of the things causing these drops. But again, the big story of the market this morning now is Williams coming out saying we can maybe cut rates in December, essentially. So Bitcoin's back up from this, Nasdaq's back up from its buy, and Nvidia back up, but it's definitely causing drops. All right, so Moran says, I think November CPI data will not be until after the next FOMC meeting. If we get it. I mean, oh no, we should get November CPI data. When CPI is usually released on like the 11th or 12th or 13th, so I agree. It's probably going to come out after the next FOMC decision, if it comes out on schedule, which is a big if. Might be after that, really. But again, Moran says they think November CPI data will not be until after the next FOMC meeting. He said labor market data is not as strong as we would like. And so yeah, we got the Bank of Japan next rate decision going to be December 18th. That's right before the holiday too. I mean, I think that's a big decision as well. I use a bunch of different sources, guys. Sorry. The logic of pausing because of driving in the fog is nonsensical. Yeah, I mean, I think we got to look at what's weak ahead of the shutdown, and the labor market has been weak. So Moran says the financial condition that matters most is housing. Again, Moran recently said November CPI data will not be until after the next FOMC. They also have some talks about Ukraine showing up. Hold on, guys. Alright, sorry. It was hot. I had to take that hoodie off. I think my wife has the heating on. Why did rate cut odds just spike? Because the Fed Williams said that it's likely that we can cut rates in December. Collins came out kind of the opposite way, though, said it's not guaranteed. We have to pay attention to the dual mandate. And so, yeah. Again, Collins essentially said labor supply and demand growth has slowed. A rough, unusual balance, so not seeing significant unemployment changes. Watching carefully, it's important to be forward-looking. Absolutely, there are risks in the labor market, but that is not our only consideration. It's about balancing the risks and assessing which goal is further away from the target. Increased risks of labor market were a good reason for the cut so far. Now the Fed has moved much closer to the neutral rate and is balancing labor market risks with inflation risks. Policy is only mildly restrictive in her view. But again, Williams basically came out saying the opposite, saying that the Fed can still cut rates in near term given current policy is modestly restrictive. And again, Williams's quotes, which are more important in terms of the market at least, have been pushing the market all the way up like this. Bitcoin at 84,000. All right, guys. All right. Get excited here, okay? Powell didn't even cut rates last December. He's not going to do this one either. I think he did cut rates in December, right? They cut 3 times last year. Started in September. I think they did September, November, and December. Yeah, they did 3 cuts. Yeah, they did 50 in September, 25 in November, 25 in December. They cut rates in December last year. Yep, they cut in December. Yeah, I don't know. I think the opening bell is interesting. I think the last few days, you know, the market will do one thing in pre-market, and then sometimes it'll do the other thing at the opening bell. And so I think this is a interesting pre-market session here for sure. A little nervous about the open. Williams saved the market. It definitely saved the market from this morning. Honestly, like I said, when I woke up this morning, the market was a little scary. Bitcoin is definitely scary. I mean, I don't know if Bitcoin's any less scary now, but it's still not, it's still up a little bit over the last hour, which is good. I think Bitcoin needs that. It's almost back up to 84,500. It's almost back up to 85,000. So it's kind of after the cut odds. And again, Bitcoin and crypto want stimulation in markets. They want easing in markets. So anything that might show more easing potential in these markets is good for Bitcoin. I think as much as I'm against quantitative easing right now, I think Bitcoin will benefit from it, and maybe some other markets will as well. But I'm not willing to do that just to, you know, I think I'm not willing to do that to inflation just to save it. As much as I'm in Bitcoin and I want it to go up, I'd rather not do easing. You know. All right, guys. Shout out to all you guys. My channel this morning hit 15 million views. Thanks so much, guys. We appreciate it. 15 million. What a great number. Remember, Powell hurt the market last December. He cut and then was hawkish at the press conference. And Powell's about balance, though, so I think that's fair. I'm okay if we cut rates and then you're hawkish when you speak. You know, that's a balance thing. The Fed's Jefferson says the financial system is resilient and more limited to use of leverage may reduce the extent of any shift in AI sentiment transmitting into the economy. But yeah, the Fed's Jefferson speaking right now. I've said it once, I'll say it again. It really goes to show I can tell people I have no idea what I'm talking about and still grow on YouTube. Thanks so much, guys. I appreciate it. Again, Jefferson says it's too soon to know how AI is going to impact the labor market, inflation, and monetary policy. Says more limited use of leverage may reduce the extent of any AI sentiment shift transmitting to the economy, but watching AI firm debt issuance closely. So that's what we're seeing right now. There's differences between current market and dot-com era make it less likely we are witnessing a replay of late 1990s. What are those differences, though? He said financial system is sound and resilient. What are the differences, though? Here's the thing. There's some correlations for sure with it. Dot-com, again, I've said this before, I'll say it again. The dot-com crash situation happened because the internet was the next big technology, very similar to what AI is today. And what ended up happening is like a bunch of companies just threw .com at the end of their names, kind of like you see companies do now where they're just like, hey, we're getting into AI. Target said they're getting into AI the other day. I'm in Target, but, you know. But anyways, the .com crash happened. Companies started throwing .com at the end of their name. Pre-Netscape, you had a standard. You need to hit, I think it was like at least 2 quarters of profit before you IPO'd. Netscape did it pre-profits, made billions of dollars, effectively changing the standard that you needed to IPO at the time. And then it kind of opened up the floodgates, and all these internet companies started IPOing pre-profits and making a lot of money, and valuations spiked. And they were, you know, by 1997, Alan Greenspan said that the market was in quote-unquote irrational exuberance. It was a famous speech that he did. And then 3 years later, that bubble bursted from most of those companies that were not necessarily valid, that just kind of threw .com in their name, crashing down. And again, in hindsight, the internet was that next big technology, but, you know, we still had a big bear market from it. And I think considering what I just said, a lot of people are going to consider the current market a similar thing. There's definitely differences though, but there's also similarities, I guess is the point. And so yeah, I'll put, if you want to check out Top Step, they're a sponsor of mine. I'm biased, of course, but it's genuinely useful. It's a great way to learn how to day trade. Most day traders lose money. So, you know, doesn't matter what course you take, who you follow, who your mentor is, you're probably going to lose money. They'll tell you you're not going to, and that if you just buy their course, you're going to, not Top Step, but other gurus will tell you, you just got to buy their course and you'll make money. Probably not true. With that said, limit your risks. $50 a month for Top Step. It's kind of like a souped up demo account for the base one. If you pass it, you get a $50K funded account. If you fail it, you lose $50, basically. Not the end of the world. There's also a $100,000 challenge, $150K challenge. Learning with a $50 or $100 risk just makes sense in my opinion. It's subjective, but I think it makes sense because it's less risk and most day traders lose anyway. And then once you're funded, it's a 90% split, so it's similar to funding your own account. And I think it's just the best way to learn. If I could go back in time when I first started learning and use something like this, I would. But again, I'm biased. I get paid by them. Understand all this stuff on screen. I'm not an investment professional. I'm not liable if you lose money. Make your own assessment, figure it out, but genuinely useful in my opinion. Again, I'll put the link up. I'll pin it to the top of the page. Yeah, gold this morning is one of the ones I'm curious about as well. Gold is almost green on the day. It's at 4,074 right now, but it's almost green on the day. Soon to know how much, not how really AI and robots are going to decimate the job market. You have a good feel for the market. I'm a professional trader and I come to you for quick hits on the market. I bought the fear pre-market. Hey, good job, dude. I think Saylor is running MicroStrategy into the ground with his Bitcoin purchases from the next Lehman Brothers. Yeah, but that's what strategy does, is buy Bitcoin. That's the whole point of the company. You know, like you could argue they should diversify into other things, but you know, I think people would be so upset. A lot of people would sell if they did, you know. So I think it's a double-edged sword in that regard. Hey, thank you for becoming a member, Tiny. I appreciate it. home price estimate on Zillow and SoFi. Yeah, I mean, MicroStrategy is obviously not doing the best right now, considering the huge corrections in its assets. Hey, thank you, Tiny. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's a scary market still, even with these rebounds here. I mean, I hope the correction is done. Again, I did the math earlier. The SPY is down. The SPY from its peak went from 690 to 650. So again, 690 to 650. The SPY is down from its peak 6% roughly, a little bit under 6%. The NASDAQ is down from its peak at 638. All the way, it hit lows of 580 this morning. So the SPY is down from its peak 9%. SPY, S&P, that's the S&P. The Dow is a little bit more resilient, it looks like. But that's still not a small drop necessarily for the Dow. The Dow is down from its peak at about 48,520. And it's all the way down to 46,000, we'll call it. Dow is down 5.2%. It's less tech heavy, right? So it's going to move less downward. Again, Nvidia is still down, but it's back up a little bit today. So let's hope this big correction is over. Again, gold still trying to go green on the day. It's at 4,075. It's right at that green to red area here, right at the green to red spot. At least the sentiment on AI rate cut is good today, can fuel partial recovery, but we need to see volume and confidence in the next week. Yeah, the opening bell is going to matter here. I think the opening bell is going to be relevant. Dream reminds me of homeroom before school started. I don't know, bro. I was a sleeper in homeroom. Like I didn't have fun. I slept, dude. I still very much against making young people wake up at 6 a.m., 7 a.m. I think it's way too early. I think they need more hours of sleep than like a normal person. And so forcing them to get up at 6 a.m. just seems dumb. You got to let them sleep, let them grow, you know. Telling you all the sleeping panic seller orders will fill at the open. It's possible. We've seen a lot of sell-offs at the opening bell recently over the last few weeks. So it's definitely possible. Yeah, it teaches them discipline, but it probably stunts growth, realistically. You know, like when you're young and growing, like between like, you know, really like 10 through, depending on, you know, 15, 16, 17, you need your sleep the most, right? That's what like refreshes your brain for the day, helps you grow, you know, helps you learn things better, makes your, you know, thinking and brain and growth more resilient, all that stuff. So by forcing them to get up super early, you know, unless they're going to bed at like 7 o'clock, it's not good for them. All we need is a presidential tweet. I don't know if that's good for the market right now either. I like robots. Listen, I'm a huge nerd. You know? But again, Jefferson said the financial system resilient, more limited use of leverage may reduce the extent of any shift in AI sentiment. We corrected 36%. Now it's the biggest in this bull run. You gotta be talking about crypto, huh? Bitcoin back up to 84,000. It looks better for sure after, was it Williams? Yeah, Williams comments this morning. Market's looking a little bit better. Bitcoin back up to 84,000. What's your top 3 favorite robots? Are we talking like sci-fi movie robots? I'm gonna go with Chappie, Robin Williams from Bicentennial Man. and Arnold from Terminator 2. I'd probably put Arnold above Chappie, by the way. Chappie's like number 3 on that list. Huh. Alright, guys. Gold now effectively green on the day. Effectively green on the day. We'll see what the opening bell brings here, guys. Honestly, it's an important day for it, too. It's Friday after a lot of stuff happened this week. Yeah. Johnny number 5, bro. He would get pumped in today's robot environment, dude. He wouldn't last a day. I'm sorry. Yeah. Somebody would punt him across the room at this point in time, dude. You know? Yeah. All right, guys. Is the Sped... I can't speak. Is the Fed's speaking volatility done at this point in time? Again, Collins spoke live. Collins was obviously more hawkish than Williams. Williams was more, dovish. C-3PO was cool. He's kind of whiny, though. Let's be honest here. Yeah. I don't need that in my life. Just like a whiny robot complaining about stuff. I already got kids, you know. Yeah, let's take a look. Gold, again, effectively green on the day. The NASDAQ has been silent over the last few minutes. It's basically sideways. Robinhood is technically green on the day, actually. Again, Meta's technically red. Slightly red. Again, Google almost at $300 still. It's pulled back a little bit from that $300 push it made a few days ago, but it's still pretty close to it at 298s, 297s. We already had a bunch of Fed speeches. We got more, I think, too. Let me see. So we have, we got manufacturing PMI in like 45 minutes or so. We already had retail sales. What else we got? We got Lori Logan is supposed to be speaking right now. I don't know if they're saying anything about the market, though. I gotta change my bottom scroller. The market has bounced back. Let me write this right now. Markets have rebounded from lows this morning as Fed Williams came out with a dovish tone in his speech, effectively pushing up odds for a December rate cut. All right, so Logan, speaking of Logan, said Fed should hold rates steady for a time to assess degree of restrictions. So again, Fed's Logan is a hawk, apparently. That's a hawkish comment by the Fed's Logan. She says, Collins says more global economic fragmentation could lead to higher inflation. Global economic fragmentation could make economy more volatile. But again, Logan says Fed should hold rates steady for a time to assess degree of restrictions. Yeah, so a bunch of contradictory comments today by Fed members. Yeah, gold up, technically green on the day. 4,080 right now, 4,080. All right, we'll see if the Fed Collins continues to push out speeches here. We got 25 minutes until the market open today, though. Logan says elevated asset valuations, compressed credit spreads mean policy rate must offset financial condition tailwind. Says repeats view that October rate cut was not warranted. Says she would find it difficult to support a December rate cut. Inflation is too high and the labor market is roughly balanced. Fed should hold rates steady for a time to assess degree of restriction. Higher economic volatility could complicate the Fed's work. According to Collins, more economic fragmentation could raise borrowing costs. But again, Logan essentially coming out hawkish, saying asset valuations are elevated, compressed credit spreads mean policy rate must offset financial condition tailwinds. And repeats view that the October rate cut was not warranted, is essentially what she's saying here. So. You can watch the PMI news live right here. We're going to cover it. Apparently, U.S. stocks suffered one of the worst horrible reversals in 32 years. 32 years, bro. I mean, are we going to skip 2000? We're going to skip 2008? 32 years is a long time. 32 years ago, I was just a little pup, you know. There's been a lot of big corrections in 32 years, sir. Rate cut odds, what's up, Fimi? Rate cut odds for December currently sitting at last time I looked up, they were 71%. They're actually up a little bit. They're at 71.1% now versus 28.9% pause outcomes. So Bitcoin dipping down back under 84,000 here. Hey John, I appreciate your work and bringing us the info live. It helps a lot. I watch every day from Portugal. Keep up the good work and your moderate and most of the time accurate opinions. Hey, thank you, Robert. I appreciate it, man. Thank you, sir. Inflation is going to go up anyway because they have to print a lot, and it will be going up into the economy again, just like during. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They don't have to print. I would prefer they didn't, to be honest, because that can cause inflation, you know. But I agree. We should just go ahead and cut, you know. Yeah, I mean, I don't think yesterday's drop was, I mean, yesterday's drop was definitely not good, right? I don't know if it's up there with 2008 or 2000, you know? They're going to quantitative ease, make a money machine go burr. Yeah, basically, that's what they're going to do. I don't know. They might not. They haven't committed to that yet, but usually when they stop QT, it's going to start. The European Union is exploring cutting price of carbon border tax on British electricity producers, according to the Financial Times. Again, we're heading into the opening bell, and markets are a little quiet now. What does the like button do? I don't try it. Everybody's doing it, bro. Try it one time. Might be good. Good things might happen if you hit the like button. It's a little quiet for me. Yeah, I think it's strange. I think a lot of people are watching the opening bell today, too. Subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Again, we hit 15 million views today. So thanks so much, guys. I appreciate it. No more. Yeah, so I think Lori Logan is done speaking, I think. Quiet before the storm. Yeah, that's what I'm worried. That's what I'm worried about. Again, we've seen some big corrections. A lot of these big drops have started at the opening bell. And a lot of the mornings that they happened, we were quiet ahead of that. Sometimes we're actually going the opposite way, and then we just dumped at the opening bell. And so just be careful. I'm not saying that's going to happen. It is Friday. Generally speaking, liquidity is a little bit lower on Friday. So in general, we get quieter moves on Friday, more choppy ranges. But it doesn't mean that's what we're going to get today. It doesn't mean that's what we're getting today. Let me know. Again, bullish or bear at the opening bell. We did a poll asking people if we're going to cut rates December 10th. 65% say yes, 35% say no. Let me know what you guys think we're going to get at the opening bell. Put bull or bear in chat. Yeah. Go Tigers? Yes, sir. You know. Are you guys happy Brian Kelly's gone? You know? Honestly, I was never a big Brian Kelly fan. You know? Like, look. We had some talent in the last 5 years, 4 years in there. You know? We should have done better. Michael Saylor is screwed. This is what I like. Bullish, slightly bullish, both bull. Turn 100 into 1,000. We sometimes have zombie rallies and drops on Friday. Yeah. Sinus stuff bothering me, man. I don't know. How else? I somehow doubt we will get another mega dump. It just feels like overkill, but you never know. 20 minutes, guys. 20 minutes. We got manufacturing PMI 945. We'll cover it live. My knee is almost healed. Top 3 knees ever right now. Almost healed, guys. I can walk barefoot in my house now, which is great as well. And I couldn't walk barefoot. I had to wear shoes inside for like a month. Horrible. I'm gonna cry about this for like a month afterwards too. What's more important, the open or the close? I mean, I think they're both volatile and they both can move markets. I would say the close maybe just in the context of like people are going to look at where the market closed versus where it opened at the end of the day. But in terms of volatility, I think the opening bell can sometimes be more volatile. I got an injury training jiu-jitsu. I tore my MCL and the spring ligament in my foot training. And yeah, my MCL is basically healed at this point. That was my foot. Everybody was bullish yesterday. The market opened up really bullish at the open and then dumped down. Pawn sent me a message at like 1 o'clock. He was like, yo, market is down. And I looked at it. It was scary. Again, NASDAQ's green on the day, though, so it's a SPY. It's not green enough to where I think we can't correct from it, though, but it's green, which is good. We need green right now. And the NASDAQ had a really rough day yesterday. Really rough. Yeah, I'm at 8 weeks now. Almost 8 weeks. So, what's included in the membership? I mean, I told people I would never have paywalls behind my content. And so outside of getting these brilliant emojis right here, which include Beardless John, Rosie the German Shepherd, my wife Carol, and some other stuff, that's it. You know, I'd love to, you know, keep all this super secret content as for members, but you don't really get much. I'm honest about it. I told people I wouldn't have paywalls behind my content, and so I'd feel guilty if I had like content that was only meant for members and then I forced them to pay for it. You know, I'd rather just not do that. Was it a delayed reaction after proper analysis of NVIDIA, or the job data and lowered cut probability? It was a mix of unemployment upticking, the yen carry dynamic where the yields in Japanese bonds are going up substantially, and that's causing people to use the Japanese yen less and unload the US assets that they bought with it, and that's causing selling in markets. There's some rumors of a circular financing and microchips and tech overvaluations that are also kind of causing problems. I would say that's probably the biggest story here. But then again, yesterday, unemployment upticked 4.4%, and just a lot of stuff like that. And so it's kind of a bunch of things raining down at once in markets. This morning it was Fed remarks that pushed the markets back up. It was specifically Williams who said that we could cut rates potentially in December based off of the labor data that we're seeing. But yeah. I think Bitcoin crashed due to a glitch. No. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good trading quotes. One of my favorites is "Money's not made in trading, it's made in waiting," or something like that. I can't remember. One of my favorite quotes in general, I saw it on The Big Short, is "The truth is like poetry, and most people effing hate poetry." You know? That's one of my favorite quotes too. China had an extensive circular economy in 2020. They're doing fine. The Fed more or less flying blind if they don't get their data from the government on time. Yeah. I mean, they kind of are. We've had data. The Fed, I think Powell even acknowledged they look at like some of the ADP private payroll data that we get to guide us when the government shut down. Now, they're definitely flying more blind than they normally are in the context of data, but you know, we're starting to get some of that data back out. We'll see what happens. The real question at the root of it is, do you guys think 3% inflation is like extraordinarily high for inflation? Right now we're about 3%. We're gonna have PCE next week and GDP and a bunch of other stuff, but do you guys think 3% inflation is extraordinarily high for inflation? %, much with current wages. Not historically. No, 3% not high. Sounds small. 3%. I mean, the current wages have slowed as well, though. Is like one of the sorry, they get mad at me if I say nuances. One of the characteristics of the current situation. Way better than 10%. Well, yeah. I mean, of course it is. You know, I wouldn't necessarily say 3% is good. I don't think it's extraordinarily high. You know, the Fed has their 2% target, but you know, under 3% is generally okay for inflation. All right, guys, 13 minutes. 13 minutes. I regret not shorting BYND. I tried to tell you guys, man. Like, listen, I've been looking at markets for a long time, including penny stocks. BYND doesn't have the correct recipe for a business that is public. Private company, sure, let BYND do its thing. Public company, there's just simply not enough people that are interested in BYND. Not even in terms of a stock, in terms of the actual product. You know, like they just don't have enough customers. They need to prop up a public company in the way that they want to, you know. Again, vegans aren't going to touch this stuff most of the time. Especially not if they sell it at fast food chains, which who gave them this idea? Like, oh, McDonald's is going to offer the impossible, or Burger King the impossible burger, and, you know, Beyond Meat doing deals with fast food chains? Nobody's going to buy that at a fast food chain. It just, again, they made some bad decisions. I don't think they have the customer base that are interested in actually eating this stuff. And I just don't think they should have ever been public, to be honest. You know, the fact that they were at one point $300 a share, wild. You know, and again, I remember when this was $300 a share. I didn't trust it at the time either. It's now 88 cents. Give me $10 to trade. You know, no. I'm not setting that standard, bro. I start giving out money to people, dude, I'll never hear the end of it. But no. $10 ain't gonna get you anywhere in trading anyway, dude. Yeah, Nvidia had that pump and dump, you know, and what happens here is like not Nvidia, BYND went up to $7 recently, $8. What happens is like you get a bunch of people that buy the hype up here over like ridiculous amounts, and then they just get really emotional about it afterwards. So it starts dumping back down. They start trying to talk other people into buying it. You know, it just kind of creates this pump and dump cycle. Inflation isn't going to be a thing. I'm not sure how to interpret that comment. Inflation's not going to be a thing? What, we're just going to have no more inflation? It's too vague. I do like the Happy Gilmore. It's all in the hips. Change to you buy the dips. I'm laughing at some of these memes that people put out in the Discord. Yeah, these are funny. Shout out to all the people posting me. Yeah, if you want to join the Discord. I don't ever comment on here, guys, sorry. But there's the link. Check it out. You have to crash the market to give people something to talk about on Thanksgiving. Rare Earths. All right, guys, look at the NASDAQ come back down ahead of the opening bell. We got 9 minutes left. I'm watching 175. I still might buy 175, but we're getting kind of close to the open, so I usually have to wait until after the opening bell is over first. Yeah. Starting to pull back a little bit. Bitcoin's still holding okay, though. Nvidia's still green. bullish or bearish market open. I don't know, man. I really don't know. Again, we got manufacturing PMI 945. That's relevant. We'll see what that does. Give me a follow on x.com at beginner trades. At beginner trades. Jefferson says no special insight as to what is a bubble. Not in business and leaning for or against what's happening in financial markets. He's not in the business of leaning for or against what's happening in financial markets. Jim Cramer says Williams comes on and then suddenly everything's fine. I don't think so. This might be the best bull sign of the year. He said, you don't think everything's fine? No, there's a lot of people have to get out. Let them get out. This is not what suddenly they wave a magic wand. We always have real issues. Jim Cramer. Is that a bull sign here? Not an investment professional. Don't copy me. I'm not liable if you guys lose. Always make your own assessment. Trade smart. I can't guarantee anything. Remember, next week we got some stuff coming on. Got some markets moving next week here. Fed does have the wand. Yeah, baby. Bear market today. After all the comments, I'm edging bullish. After a recent correction, we have to have a relief rally at some stage. Inverse Kramer telling people to sell at lows. Yes, that's on. Heel hook? No, it wasn't a heel hook. It was an AOP lock, which is kind of like one. I turned the wrong way out of it. Just... Luckily, it wasn't a full tear. And so... all things considered, it was a small tear. But yeah. Nobody lost their house. Get out of here with that. I don't have financial advice. I don't even know what financial advice is. Whatever I say, I definitely know is not financial advice. Top 3 least professional people in the world right now. And I'll say it again. If you're copying somebody called beginner trading, I'm not going to say you deserve it. But, you know, make better decisions here. Okay. Wolves, I don't know what you're saying here. Your get up? You mean my outfit, bro? Listen. I get up here and start the stream at 6:15 in the morning. Meaning I gotta get up at like 5:30. Alright. I could throw a suit on. That would be disingenuous though. Why am I gonna put a suit on if I'm in the comfort of my own home here? You know? No, you get tank top John. Sometimes you get hoodie John. You know, my hair's crazy. Deal with it. Alright. I'm not gonna put a suit on at home at 6:15 in the morning just to look more professional. Again, I wouldn't trust myself if I did. Y'all shouldn't trust. If I ever show up with a suit on, don't trust anything I got to say. You know. How long till intermediate trading? I mean, I'm a resource for traders. That's how I always describe it. It's not that I'm a beginner because I'm not. I've been trading for, but. All right, guys, here we go. 3 minutes here. 3 minutes. I hope LSU gets Lane Kiffin, dude. I hope they get him, bro. I don't know. At this point, all of Louisiana is basically like, yeah, we're getting Lane Kiffin. We're getting Lane Kiffin. I don't know, bro. They said that same thing last time, and then we got Coach O. And I'm not even mad about Coach O, but I'd rather Kiffin than Kelly. I'll put it that way. Kelly's not hurting though. He made millions and millions of dollars. So. I feel good about the opening bell. Will John wear a suit next? What are the odds? I got a better chance of wearing the pink bunny suit from A Christmas Story versus a suit. I don't think I've ever worn a suit on stream. And I'm probably not going to. Again, I have worn a pink bunny suit from The Christmas Story, though. And I think I'm probably going to do it again this year during the holidays. Plus, it's nice and warm and comfy in that pink bunny suit. Don't judge me. S&P only down about 5% from high. 10% correction is normal. I think a 10% correction is actually healthy as well. I've been saying this for months now. I think we kind of need to. I'd rather us correct 10% than crash 30. You know? So. Ed Williams and Moran asking for a cut. Yeah, Collins basically saying we shouldn't. Correction doesn't prevent a crash, does it? Well, it makes overvaluation fears a little bit less right now. Yeah, Moran's the newest one. He's going to be dovish. Collins is going to be hawkish, though. You know what I mean? So, how it goes. I don't know if Moran or Iran is still pushing for the chairman job. All right, guys, here we go. We got the opening bell right now. Good luck. Here's the bell. Also, if that bell was delayed, hit the live button next to the play button. Put it in 2x speed. You'll catch back up. Apple rip it up at the opening bell. Nvidia, Bitcoin moving up a little bit. We bounced right there at 175. I've been talking about buying it all day, but we dipped down close to it, too close to the opening bell. Apple rip it up, though. Nvidia rebounding a little bit. Bitcoin fighting back some. NASDAQ pushing back up some. Yeah, 70% chance of a rate cut. Get Nvidia up to 182s, Apple at 267s, Bitcoin at 84,000. Yeah, I mean, again, this is not big enough for me to be thinking, for me to think that we're at the woods yet necessarily here. All right, there's a dip. Nvidia turning down, actually technically red on the day. Or not red on the day, red since the opening bell. This previous closing price is at 180.63. This is the red to green level in Nvidia. We are starting to turn some here, though. Apple's still okay. Are you guys getting the $2,000 tariff money? I don't think I qualify for it, to be honest. If everybody's getting free money, I'd take it. I don't think I'm getting it. All right, market's back up here. Apple holding. Nvidia back, trying to go back green on the day. It pushed red for a little while here. Bitcoin's still pushing it. Oh wait, this song actually has like lyrics in it. All right, guys. So very choppy open right now here. We're not really doing anything. Um, we had this range here at the open between 280 and like 185. Video broke down, is now technically red on the day. Under 180s now as well, which is kind of a psychological level for it. Yeah, Nvidia coming back down to test the bottom here. Apple's still pushing up. Again, we can take a look at like gold right here. Gold at 4060s. All right, so we're seeing red here. I will pivot to a short like bias. But honestly, with the way the market was yesterday, I gotta wait a little bit here. The big retracement though. I'll short this right here actually. We'll try. It's only 3 minutes into the day, but we already have a cushion. And I'll add a little bit here. See if we reject at 225 and see if we push back down. Struggling to get up there. We're kind of choppy here though. I'm gonna take half off of this though. Just I don't want to risk too much in this trade. I want to give it time. Yeah, I gotta cut that. Luckily, we had a cushion on the day already in that account, but not gonna risk too much here. The odds of a rate cut have gone up substantially here though. So maybe that's helping markets. Probably could have held this. Swinging back and forth. Back up to the top of the range here. It just depends on what Nvidia and others do. A switch. I don't want to lose too much. That's my main account that I'm up really nicely in. A different one now. I'm not gonna be able to trade necessarily though until we break some of this range. The loss was small and I was already green on the day prior, so. This week here. Bitcoin's rising though, guys. Bitcoin almost up to 85,000. Nvidia's down to 177s here though. Yeah, that meta position I'm in is doing okay. Honestly, my portfolio is actually pretty green today. But I can't touch this here. It's terrible. Oh, also, guys, we got manufacturing PMI in 9 minutes. 9 minutes here. $9.45. Okay, we got manufacturing PMI at 9:45. So Bitcoin recovery. Yeah, Bitcoin at 85,000 roughly right now. Again, this market's too choppy for me to really trade here. Nice. All right, we're testing the high up here. We continue up. I'm not really like interested in longing this just because the last few times we've done this, we've dropped immediately back down. Maybe this one's different. Bitcoin right at 85,000 just popped over 85,000 for a second. I mean, this doesn't mean there's no flash crash today, just to put it out there, guys. Like, Yesterday, I think we pushed up at the open, right? And then we dumped midday. Sailor response to the MSCI index situation. He said, MicroStrategy is not a fund, not a trust, not a holding company. We're a publicly traded operation with a $500 million software business and a unique treasury strategy that uses Bitcoin as productive capital. He says this comes after MSCI launched a formal consultation on how to classify digital asset treasury companies. MSCI views such companies as more similar to investment funds rather than traditional operating all right, and yeah, look at this. We're right back down. All right, guys, so we got some upward movement in other stuff besides tech. Nvidia down to 177s, though. Where's the lows? Let me see. Yeah, so Nvidia lows are out right around 174.40s for Nvidia. Look at this drop. Show it up. This is a big red drop. Might short this. Need a bounce to short, though. I'm going to short this for just a second here. 2 contracts and that's it. Flush down. Yeah, I'm kind of getting chopped out today, though, to be honest, so I'll probably slow down my size in trading. I'm going to take half off here just to protect this because it's kind of sketchy. There we go. We're green for a second. We're flat right now. Now we're green. We got manufacturing PMI in 5 minutes, though, is a risk. All right, I'm going to cut it. So we're actually green on that trade and green on the day on this account, so that's good. All right, guys, manufacturing PMI in 5 minutes. Nice, Tiny. Congrats. Yeah, I talked to my mom out of Dogecoin at 75 cents, if we're talking about grandmothers. All right, so we broke that low and liquidity grabbed and popped right back up here. Let's see what NVIDIA does, though. NVIDIA looks weak since the opening bell. I don't know. Like, usually manufacturing PMI is not that big of a market mover. It's expected at 52 today in 5 minutes. Services PMI expected at 54. So we got manufacturing and services PMI for today. Again, 52 and 54 expectations here. We'll see. NASDAQ reaping right back up here. Look at this. We're back up to that 250 level here and rejecting. It's just hard to pick a direction. Bitcoin now over 185. Nvidia starting to rebound back up, though. So Nvidia previous close is 180.64. If it gets back over that, it's technically green on the day, and that's an optimistic thing for markets. I mean, it's Friday, guys. Again, we got manufacturing and services today. Be ready. At 225s. Get NVIDIA at 178. Look how flat this range is, though, guys. I don't know what to do. Gotta just kind of sit tight here, I think. I don't know. Right move to mess with. Apple at 269s. Microsoft. Apple's surging up. Microsoft dipping. Meta's green. Google's still green. AMD's pretty red though. TSM is pretty red. This is microchip weakness, I think. Alright guys, we got manufacturing PMI in like a minute and a half though. Maybe the market might just be waiting for manufacturing PMI considering all the labor numbers. Again, manufacturing PMI expected at 52. Services expected at 54.6. We also have housing starts in Michigan, consumer sentiment at 10 a.m. Again, check out Top Step. You want to help support the channel. There's no PDT in futures, so you can day trade the S&P, NASDAQ, Dow. Patterns are very similar. You can get started for 50 bucks. You're still risking something. You pass it, you get a 50K funded account, 90% split. You fail it, you lose 50 bucks. It's the best of both worlds. Limited risk, similar reward to funding your own account. They're a sponsor of mine. I'm biased, but genuinely useful. Some of the most reliable payouts in the game. You can reset funded accounts and more. They also have a big announcement, I think, coming out next week. But again, understand all the stuff on screen. We're about to have manufacturing PMI drop in like 40 seconds here. There's the link right there. But again, 30 seconds. Hit the live button next to the play button. Put it in 2x speed. We appreciate it. Manufacturing PMI data in about 30 seconds. Again, hit the live button next to the play button. Put it in 2x speed. You know what's down a lot? Oracle. All right, here we go. Here's the data. All right, guys. Manufacturing PMI expected at 52. Here's the data release right here. 51.9 for manufacturing PMI, weaker than expected. Services at 55 versus 54.6. Services was stronger than expected. Manufacturing PMI was slightly weaker than expected and weaker than last time. But S&P Global Composite data showed 54.8 versus 54.5. So Global Composite and services were stronger than expected. Manufacturing was weaker than expected. But again, as I thought, we didn't really get a big reaction to this data here. I don't think it's that, you know, I don't necessarily think it's like a big release that's going to move markets, but maybe it does. We're starting to trend down here. But again, manufacturing slightly weaker, services slightly stronger. Kind of neutral. Yeah, we got Michigan. We got consumer sentiment at 10 a.m. Yeah. All right, so we're seeing some red here, guys. Now that this data is out, maybe there's like a short idea. Let's see if we pop up a little bit so I can short it. Data pop though. Ah, I wanted to short, but we didn't really get a bounce. Ah. Remove this 130 level. 125 seems to be holding that. You have to pass the test. You gotta make 3K in profit on a 50K demo for the base one without losing 2K first. I should have shorted that little bounce we got. It wasn't quite juicy enough for me, but that's okay. Bitcoin coming back down, Nvidia coming back down. The red candle though. If we get a bounce up to like 150, I'll short it now, but I need a bounce. I get Nvidia. Big level for Nvidia, 174 right here. This is the low of the last while here. Look at this level right here. Level right here. 174.40s. I'm gonna short into this. We add a little bit more. Yeah, if this doesn't work, I'll probably just stop trading for the day. It's just so whippy right now. Like we drop big, we look weak, and then we rip all the way back up. I took half of that off now. How whippy this is, guys. Used to. All right, we cut it. We're great on the day, but not much. Short again, bounce up here. We add to it again. Back down. Cut that too. Just so choppy. I cut it right in time. I short this right here. We add to this 200 EMA. Mission we have on the day to try to make a green trade, but yeah, this is freaking difficult price action to make money in. That's kind of like an opening trade breakout. Money. I gotta just slow it down for the day so I don't give too much back. We're down in 3 of our funded accounts, so not a lot. I mean, they're all under 150 bucks really, but difficult to make money. It's Friday. I'll cover the Michigan consumer sentiment though in 12 minutes. Let me make sure there's no news causing this rebound. Nah, I'm not gonna go long either. It looks bullish right now. Obviously, this huge green candle looks bullish. But what happened here is they just ate the liquidity of all the shorts that jumped in like me right here. Just ripped back up. That's a weird level though. Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is a bad trade at all. I think looking for the opening range to break and then attacking that direction is a pretty time-tested strategy. It's just variance. There's going to be variance whether it works or not. But we're just choppy right now. I was hoping this would break the choppiness, but I guess it's better than just dumping down, even if I lost on a short-term day trade. Bitcoin needs to reach 76 to 78,000 support. Yeah, you see, you know, I've heard different things. I heard 88,000 was going to hold us up. I heard 85,000 was going to hold Bitcoin higher. And so I don't know. I'm not going to hold my breath for any of that support holding. I'd love it to hold, but I don't know, man. I've heard a bunch of different answers about where the bottom is. Yeah, right now I've got like a sore throat. It's mild though. Yeah, Google stock has been resilient, huh? Still up. Yeah, this is just not good price action today. All right, guys, we got Michigan consumer sentiment data going live in 7 minutes. We'll see what we get. We got Michigan consumer sentiment data. What else we got at 10? We got housing starts for September. And housing has been relevant right now, man. Housing has definitely been relevant recently. right, so we got 1 year inflation expectation and then 5-year inflation expectations as well here. Okay, so the 5-year inflation expectations last time showed up at 3.6% 5-year. And previous 3.6% 5-year. The short-term ones have been the ones that have been the highest here. We're starting to push up a little bit. Nvidia trying to get back over 180. Again, 1 year expected at 4.7, then 4.7. At least that's what it was last. 3.6. Oh, we actually have an expectation. University of Michigan? Yeah, we do. Okay, cool. Stop. All right, guys. Again, previous one was 6, I think. But they're expecting 1 year inflation expectations to uptick a little bit. All right, guys. Again, consumer sentiment for University of Michigan is expected at 50.3. Previous of 53.6. Nasdaq actually tapping these highs. Nvidia up over 180s here. I'm not really gonna take any more trades today. Too difficult to make money, I think. Gotcha. Chips stay weak. Direct is here for next week's craziness. Next week we got a lot of stuff, man. We got PCE, inflation, GDP data, jobless claims, the ADP weekly prelim report, and more. So next week will be busy. And we got a lot of stuff that could change the Fed's tune in terms of rates. Relevant to pay attention to. Tapping that level right here at 24.3. All right, less than 4 minutes chat until the Michigan data. Oh, I don't even have the stream scheduled for it. There we go. Yeah, so I mean, the University of Michigan data is a private source. It's done by the University of Michigan, right? It's not a government report. Same thing with like, hold on. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this market's so choppy. Unless I'm gonna like short tops and buy the bottoms, I'm not really. What do we know? Given what we know, next week is it gonna be great? What do we know? Dips, just keep on dipping. When it dips, when you dip, we dip. Hands on the hips. I don't know. Yeah, I can't remember the lyrics. Like it's put your hands on my hip. Dip, we dip. It's been a while since I heard, you know. Alga says, need big flush first. Yeah, I don't know if the University of Michigan data is going to flush the market like that. I just don't. I don't think it's going to. PCE inflation is next week. GDP data is next week. ADP data is next week. Jobless claims data is next week. And I think there's even more than that. So... yeah, the University of Michigan data, wildly inaccurate. As much as I'd like to pretend it's accurate because I'm covering it, it's yeah. I don't know if I'd pick Kramer over the Michigan data, but it's close. Yeah. All right, guys, here we go. 1 minute. Bitcoin up to 85,000 though. Looks okay. Microchips a little scary, but they're not down that much. They were already a little scary though. All right, guys, 50 seconds. All right, 50 seconds. Kramer indicator. All right, guys. 30 seconds here. 30 seconds. All right, 15 seconds. Hit the live button next to the play button. Make sure you catch up to the stream chat. Appreciate it. All right, here we go. And the report goes live right now. All right, guys. So Michigan consumer sentiment 51. 51 versus expected 50.3. A little bit stronger than expected at 51 versus expected 53. 1 year inflation expectations 4.5% versus expected 4.7. 5 year inflation expectations 3.4. So better than expected by the University of Michigan here. Better than expected. Better than expected for the University of Michigan data. Market actually interpreted this kind of the same way, where the market's going up. Again, 3.4% 5-year inflation, 4.5% 1 year. Yeah. And then consumer sentiment showed up at 51. Current conditions showed a little bit weaker at 51.1. And market's actually going down a little bit now, though. Yeah. We'll see what we get. If you guys think it's bullish or bearish, let me know in chat right now. Yeah, the Japanese yen hurting markets for sure. Meta falling down. Other stuff's falling down too. We're seeing some other stuff dip. Microchips, specifically tech. Definitely not red. Looking at our rate cut odds, we'll take a look at this. 75% odds of a rate cut now. 75% odds of a rate cut for December here. Wow. Interesting. With that said, though, guys, I'm going to cut out of here. I'm going to get out of here. I'm done trading. I can't really trade this mess today. It's just not favorable for me, I think. I just got to get out of here. Again, if you want to check out Top Step, limiting risk when you trade, learning how to trade. Most day traders lose, especially when they're learning, and so it makes no sense to fund thousands into your own account. You'll probably lose it. I'm biased. They're a sponsor of mine. It's subjective, but I think it's genuinely useful to learn this way with a $50 risk versus funding your own account thousands of dollars. It just makes sense to learn in that context versus risking tons of money. You could say, oh, we'll just trade paper, but there's no risk with paper, and so you don't really learn how to trade effectively, in my opinion. It's subjective. This is the best way, in my opinion. Check them out. Here's the link. Great way to help support the channel. They're a sponsor of mine. Understand all this stuff on screen. I'm the top 3 least professional person in the world. Not professional investment advice. I'm not liable if you lose money. Be smart. We're starting to see some red here though today. Just be careful, guys. Be careful. Again, not an investment professional. I'm not liable if you lose money. Just be careful today. There's some risks, obviously, in markets. overall right now. Nasdaq's breaking down. Microchips are looking weaker than where they were this morning. Rate cut odds are now 75%. Yeah. I mean, honestly, guys, you know, I see a lot of people thanking me for going live this morning, even with all the craziness. But honestly, my views are better when the market goes down. People think I'm like struggling when the market goes down. Honestly, views are a little bit better. I'm not saying I want that to happen, guys. I would never, you know. Anyways, y'all have a great day. I'll see you guys later. Again, as soon as I close this stream, it's going to pivot you to Monday's stream. We got high standards here. I expect you to sit at your computer watching that screen until Monday when we start it back up again. No music, no bathroom breaks. I'm just joking.